So, Stephen D here on Pure 24/7 Radio, and I am joined by my good friend Bob Goody from Rural Missions. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Stephen.
Always a pleasure to be joined by you. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing all right. Doing all right. It's the fifth time we've been together, Stephen. You must be enjoying my company, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've come back for more, so it must be doing all right as well.
Oh yeah, for
Excellent.
sure. I've loved our conversation so far, and I think there's a lot more to come, I hope.
Excellent. So, where should we take things today? What should we talk about?
Yeah, I've been mulling through what would be really useful for us to chat through, and I guess the question that I get asked the most is, what's the magic tool that a church could use? What is actually going to help our church to move forward? Because oftentimes when we're talking to leaders, we're talking to church members, it's like, oh yeah, we've always done it this way, but come on, what is it that's going to help us to grow? Um, so yeah, I think that's probably what my starting point would be today. What's going to move us from step one to step two?
Excellent. So the turning point, how we get from step one, step two, that's really good. I think there's a lot of there's a phrase I've often heard used amongst different churches, sometimes in rural communities, sometimes not, which is tried and tested. So they have a system which they use, it's tried and tested, and they keep doing the same thing. But actually, something you mentioned last week is the importance and value of actually changing sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it is important. I was speaking to a friend here in the office. They'd come over to see me, and they run a another organization, and they were talking through their processes and their systems, and they're the exact same ones that they had in 1996. And you're right, it's tried, it's tested, but actually times have moved on. And whilst they were tried and tested in the 90s, and for a lot of churches we talk to, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, their life has moved on. Our villages, our towns, our cities, they're shaped a bit different. So tried and tested is good, but sometimes we need to roll with the new as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think the big question then is how does church get from step one, step two? How do they really grow and develop as they would want to? So, what would make that turning point? This is probably one massive question, but yeah, how do people really make that turning point?
Yeah, and I think I've set it up for a bit of a anticlimax in that I don't have all the answers. There is no one magic moment or sorry, godly moment that is really gonna to justify all of this, and that if your church does X, then Y will happen. But I think sometimes it just needs to be that cultural and that mental shift. And you've already raised some of it. Oh, it's tried and tested, and I've been in this church for so long, and this is how we've always done stuff. And sometimes it's just that mental shift of going, it did work, it has worked, but what's going to work for today? What's going to work in my next conversation? And it's not that churches are unwilling, it's not that people are unwilling. I think we're just stuck in a loop. We're stuck in a
Mm,
bit of a pattern, and I don't know if you've ever been stuck in a pattern before, but you just keep recycling and recycling, and you need that nudge from a friend, nudge from a stranger to go, you do know that there is more to life than what you're doing.
yeah, I
Um,
think one part of it is obviously if change is going to happen, if you're going to change, I think an element of it is accepting the change that has happened around you, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, for sure. And we sometimes we just get that stuck vision as well, don't we, of how things have been and how we'd hope things could be. So I think probably the biggest shift that people need to make is that internal and start to ask the question of themselves, maybe we could dot dot dot.
Mm,
Because it's not about us coming in to fix everything. And sometimes we have that mindset that if we start something, it's got to solve all of the world's problems. It's got to meet everybody in the community. But sometimes we just need to go, maybe we could reach our neighbor. Maybe we could start to reach some of the children in our village. Maybe we could start something that might only engage 10 or 12, but they're 10 or 12 that you've not met before.
Yeah.
So, what does it look like to just start somewhere and go, maybe we could try this?
Yeah, being open to the possibility of changing. But I suppose another aspect of it is not changing for the sake of changing. It's being deliberate and intentional. If there's something that we need to try differently, maybe we could. It's not just doing it for the sake of doing something different. It's got to be deliberate. It's got to be thought through, really.
Yeah, yeah, of course. It reminds me of a story. We were helping a small church in a rural community. That's what we do for a living. So it's pretty obvious. They were faithful. That's the biggest thing I hear from churches. Got a lot of faithful people in our church. We've got our faithful, but they were static. And exactly as you've just said, they felt like nothing would change for them. But the conversation we had revealed that they hadn't tried anything new for years. They'd not made any kind of simple adjustments or simple changes. Our whole process is helping people to make those small intentional changes. And so they decided on a simple step. Well, it sounds simple, but it could be complex. They wanted to host a monthly coffee morning. Coffee is quite a big thing in a lot of churches that we serve. But the first time they met, it was small. It was slightly awkward. They'd never done it before. That had they really considered how people get in? But then people came back, and it really started to open doors for conversation and invitation because they'd gone from nothing will change to here's a simple, intentional thing. We just got to start somewhere. And it wasn't dramatic, but it changed how they saw themselves. They went from that stuck to starting, and that is a key place to be.
Yeah, I was just thinking, sometimes people might try something new and it might not work. So in that instance, they tried something new and it did work, but that's not always going to be the case, is it?
No, not at all. And I think that that's probably one of the things I'd love to chat through in one of our interviews down the line is it's great to hear the good news stories, but sometimes we need a good dose of realism.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think I'd love to share some another day of what hasn't worked and some of the spectacular failures, but actually the way that God still uses those things
Yeah.
because it meant that they tried something and that confidence then helps you to grow. And I think that's again that momentum, that trying it builds small wins often, not the big wins.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that would be really interesting. We should do that in the coming weeks. Talk about some of the times that things haven't quite worked out because it doesn't always work out in life, does it? We try something new. I mean, obviously, we're talking about setting up churches and growing communities, but in any area of life, you will probably have experienced trying something new and it just not working out, whether it's a new recipe or something like that. You have a go and it doesn't always work.
I know I love to watch random TikTok reels. Like it is one of my guilty pleasures. And the amount of times I watch like the cooking fails where someone's made their first sourdough loaf and they open it and it's all miserable and dripping inside. And the people that made the cheesecake and they take the sides off and it all splatters out. I love to see the epic fails for sure, but it's in the epic fails that we learn. And I can't even remember who it was. There was some inventor. Was it Edison?
Yeah, I
He
think I'm thinking the same one. Yeah.
yeah, failed like 100 times, and then on the final attempt, he succeeded in creating the light bulb, or it was something or other.
Yeah.
And you're like, how many of us would give up after the first, second, or third attempt? Never mind the 100th attempt. And actually, if you have that confidence in knowing, well, I'll keep making those small intentional changes, that little intentional shift in how this mechanism works, then that's how every invention's come to be, isn't it? It's the small that changes the big.
Yeah. And so we're coming back to that story of someone setting up a coffee morning, simple thing. It might not have worked out. It did work out in that instance, which is great. And so I suppose when people are looking for the turning point of how they grow into their community, how they um, expand and reach the community as best as possible, considering the possibility that actually starting something new isn't always going to work, but when you know it does, when you discover it doesn't work, you can then actually learn from that and try something else that's new. It's about being realistic and prepared for the possibility that a new change might not work, but at the same time realizing that if it doesn't work, that's not exactly a failure because you tried.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've changed your mindset. You've finally gone from the I'm stuck and things won't change to going, maybe we could do this. And actually that failure reshifts you again and goes, well, that didn't work. Well, let's try it this way. And so many of us don't get to that second point because we've not done the first point of
Yeah.
I'm going to try something new. So yeah, I'm definitely on that. We
Yeah.
grow
So
in confidence, don't we?
yeah, definitely. So I suppose this turning point, as you said, it's not, you don't have all the answers. It's not a straightforward do this and all will be well, all will be fixed. So one aspect I guess that we've touched on here is it's a different posture really of wanting to try something new, being open to change, and also being prepared for things not quite working out. Those are two aspects of that turning point that we've sort of opened up today.
Yeah. Yeah, and it starts to normalize what mission is as well.
Mm,
Because we suddenly go, it's not about the big and the glitzy, and they are good. Please don't hear me wrong. If you want to run a big mission across your village, your town, your city, then go for it. But actually, mission becomes a normalized part. Mission becomes our coffee morning. Mission becomes our church open days. Mission becomes our everyday conversations. It's no longer this extra, but actually it's that intentional shift once more to going, well, have you ever thought about Jesus? Maybe I could share my life. Maybe I could share about what he's doing. Maybe we could. It's a good question to keep pondering.
yeah, questions are actually really good. I've talked to a number of people of late about the value of asking questions because if you give someone a statement of what they should do, that they might take it, they might listen to you. If you ask them a question, suddenly they've got to think themselves, and it's a really powerful way of conveying a message. So whether that church is then trying to put forward a missional program of asking questions to local communities, or whether they themselves are asking themselves a question of what it is they could do to reach that community. Questions are really, really valuable.
Yeah, yeah, and we've recently asked a whole load of questions. So we send out a weekly news and prayer letter. If you want to be on it, head to ruralmissions.org.uk. There's a little plug. But we recently sent a survey out to everyone that receives it and said, what is happening in your rural community? Like, what are you seeing? What's God up to? What are your strengths? Where could you value some further support? And actually, just by us simply asking questions of people, it's all opened a whole load of new conversations and people seeing with fresh eyes once more. And oftentimes, when we go and do our consultations, when we run our network gatherings, it's simply because we're an outsider coming in to bring some inspiration, but to ask that simple question of, like, what are you doing? Like, what is changing? Like, what is God up to? What are the needs in your community? And we don't always process the questions if we see them written down, but having someone just turn to you and say, have you thought about, or maybe you could, actually stirs a whole load of stuff. Um, so again, recently I was talking to a church leader who felt really overwhelmed, and that's not unheard of in rural communities because he was covering multiple churches. I think he'd got 7 churches all in. He was exhausted, and oftentimes he felt like he was failing because he'd got so much area to cover. He was just trying to do the routine, do the basics. And so, out of our conversation and me asking just some quite straightforward questions of him, he thought, well, it's not about adding more into my scenario, adding more into this situation, but maybe it's about simplifying stuff. And so he's gone away and he's decided that he's going to focus on one community connection at a time. So whilst he's got 7 different villages he needs to try and engage with, he knows he just can't do that. And so he's going to focus one community connection. And already, this is what, 3 weeks ago, he's starting to see himself as less busy, but more hopeful, because he's had more intentional conversations and starters of stuff within that one village than he's had in the last couple of years that he's been there. And reality is nothing massive has changed for him on paper, but it was in how he saw his role outworked that has really made the difference for him.
That's amazing. So if we were to kind of recap something of what we've said so far, actually, we've mentioned being open to change. Maybe we could asking questions. And on that last one, it's really interesting how you're highlighting just being more deliberate, more intentional with what we do. So you could apply this to pretty much any area of life. If you're trying to change something in your life, whether it's in a church, local community, or any aspect of life, to be honest, you could apply these same things. That being open to change and aware of the change that around you, that asking questions about what you could do and being prepared for it to not work, and then still trying again. And then that last thing of actually just being deliberate and intentional with each of the actions you might take.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Like the turning point is usually small,
Yeah.
but it can change everything. Like
Yeah.
that mind shifts change is the reality that will shift it all. And I guess the final point that I'd add in is starting to ask the question like, what is God already up to, and where can I join
Yeah.
in His mission? Because sometimes we're going, oh, there is that need, or I'd love to do this, but actually, God might already be doing something. And we just need to start to spot some of those signs. And I feel that sometimes we as the church can be so waylaid with our own plans and projects that we forget what He's up to.
Yeah.
And so, again, shifting our mind to God, what are you up to? And how could I join in? Could
Yeah.
be the big difference for us.
I really like that. It's a very good point. We can very easily think we've got to start from scratch, that we're starting something from nothing, but actually we forget God's doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just us starting something up. He's already doing stuff with or without us sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't need lots of people. I think sometimes you hear about a project or a program, you don't need more people to begin. You might need a different starting point. So I'd encourage you, if you're listening, maybe think through, what could I do? Maybe I could, or maybe we could is the question you need to ask. What are you up to, God? But there's a whole host of bits and pieces for you there, but the turning point has to be our mind going, I don't just do what I've always done, but let's do something to help people find and follow Jesus.
First step, a mind shift change, and that's absolutely perfect, isn't it? You've got to shift your mindset if you want to see change in your local community. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. There's that saying which kind of comes into the midst of all this, isn't there?
Yeah. Again, being a radio, I feel like there's a song in there somewhere as well.
Quite
The only one
probably.
that's the only one that's coming to mind is "You don't know what you've got till it's gone."
Oh yeah. Who
That
does that one?
pavements and parking lots or something, isn't it?
Something
Alanis
like that.
Morissette.
Ah, yes. Alanis Morissette
Yeah,
might have some music on that. There's a few different songs which
yeah,
could fit into all of that. But yeah,
yeah,
it's really cool to chat about these things, to consider this, but asking those questions and just basically to sum it all up, it's that mind shift change, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
So if you want to see a turning point in any project, in growing, in reaching out to the community, in doing more where you are, whether that's in a rural setting or even in an urban setting, the same principle applies that it's a mindset shift that we need to take. And I think that pretty much sums up that turning point that we've been talking about.
yeah, yeah. So, like, it'd be rude of me not to, but if you'd love to consider what a mindset shift looks like, you'd love to chat through with someone, and to explore what mission might look like for your context, then we'd love to have a chat with people. Like Rural Missions is here to serve the church, to serve you at no cost, both individuals and the whole church as a whole. So if something's resonated, you'd value a conversation, we run networks, we run consultations, or we could just have a chat on Zoom and see where we land. But feel free to get in touch with us, ruralmissions.org.uk.
Excellent. Ruralmissions.org.uk. Thank you for joining us, Bob Goody. Look forward to chatting again next week. It's always a pleasure.
Bless you. Thanks for having me again.